Hi, I'm excited and happy to talk about a second book that's coming out at the same time as the other one. It's called The Conscious Mum: How to Ignite Your Education, Your Homeschooling Education. The reason I've done this is that I spoke about home education when the lockdown started, and I've been wanting to do a home education book for a while now. The reason that I've done this book is that I believe that I've got a lot to offer um, people with homeschooling and with schooling full stop, because it's something that I'm very passionate about. I'm very passionate about education for children. The reason being, as you may know, I have got 8 children, and I have educated them quite differently. I've educated them depending on what their strengths or their weaknesses was, i.e. if somebody had been good at, if any of them had been good at sport, I've got them into schools that were more sporty. If they were very intellectual and high IQs, which I've had some that have been that way, I put them into schools that would push themselves for that. I've also had children that have had some challenges like dyslexia and things like that, so I've put them into schools that helped with that. And I've also had children who had language problems who had to go into specialist language schools. So I can offer, when I'm talking in the book, I go over not just homeschooling education, I go over different schooling, because I've had children in basically every single type of school just about that you have. I've had them in private schools, I've had them in Montessori schools, which is when children have to think more for themselves educationally. And they lead the education. I've had them in Steiner schools, which is a bit more holistic, which they want people to work more in their imagination, but you can read about that in the book. And I've also had children who have been in just your normal education schools that you get, government schools. And I've also had a child that was in a specialist language school, so I can offer a lot of experience and help with deciphering about the different schools. As far as the homeschooling goes, I've actually done homeschooling now for 7 years to 6 of my children. And the reason that I'm interested and wanted to do the homeschooling book is that over the time that has evolved as well. So I've done just about every type of homeschooling, i.e. I've done homeschooling when you educate like being at school. To start with, I did that. And then it kind of evolved into doing more outdoor and more kind of nature kind of education and visiting museums and doing a lot of that kind of education. And I have also gone from that then into doing education with traveling, which I think people know about, which is um, doing education as you go around and you learn outside, and you go around and show people or show your kids different places abroad, which I have. And I've also done home education when you lived abroad. I lived abroad for a long time, and I actually homeschooled my children during that time, in places like Malta, in places like France. I've travelled around from the north to the south of France, and they've done education as we were travelling. And I've also done it in other places like Malta as well, and we've done that, and I will be doing it again in the future. And that's called like homeschooling unschooling, which means you do it more when you are traveling at the same time and they're seeing different cultures. Now, the reason that I think that is so interesting and important nowadays, that even the Dalai Lama has come away with now, that children are needing more education to do with their actual philosophy and to do with their minds, because they're feeling that children are now getting a lot more stressed, and children are needing a lot more evolved kind of education, which is not just sitting around all the time at desks, which is seeing about other cultures, seeing about life. Because even in America, a lot of people who are dealing in education, they're starting to realize that schooling and university alone is not actually helping children. And this has come about and shown itself quite well over the lockdown, that children are needing to see more things to do with life and more to do with what is going on out there in the world, to do with business.